Sejam muito bem-vindos ao Bankless Brasil, onde exploramos o que há de novo no mundo das finanças, falamos sobre DeFi, NFT, DAOs e muito mais. Eu sou o Guelfi, comigo Diego, e hoje temos um convidado muito especial. Fala aí, Diego.
Tudo bem, gente? Hoje a gente vai entrevistar o Hiro Kennelly, que é uma das pessoas mais ativas que eu conheço no mundo de DAO, tanto na Bankless Global, no DAO Punks e no Good Morning News. Vai ser muito bom conversar com ele hoje.
Hiro is a fantastic writer, writes for the BanklessDAO. He's also the editor-chief of the Good Morning News, and he's also the core contributor at DAO Punks. And I don't know what else he's up to, but we're about to find out. Hiro, good guy. He's always present. He's a full DAO guy, so tell us more.
I am a full DAO guy. Yeah, well, first of all, good morning, Guelfi and Diego. And good morning where I am. Good afternoon to you. Diego, thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm super excited. And my apologies for certain scheduling issues that may have come up in the meantime. But I'm so happy we're here, and let's go.
No, don't worry. Anytime. It's an honor to have you here. And we couldn't help to talk to you, you know. And I just want to talk to people that are listening to us and don't know you yet. Hey, take a look of the letter Hiro wrote for the DAOs. It's on the Bankless newsletter. And I must say that Hiro is a person that I've been in touch with him for the last, 4 or 5 months probably. And he's a guy full of energy, and he has been an inspiration for everybody who's in this space. And I've been learning a lot with him. And I remember once that I sent him the message, hey, Hiro, I learn a lot when I'm in a meeting where you are, and when you are in this meeting and say, hey, how's that? No, I don't have anything to teach, but hey, man, yeah, you are an inspiration, and the energy you have and the way you conduct things, it's an example for everybody. Thanks to be here with us.
Jeez, what does a guy say to that? Very kind words, Diego. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a space that for some of us, provides a lot of energy. And I know that for the two of you too, the kind of vibes that we do, feed off of here and give to the space, and, the things we get to do every day do feed us and allow us to, keep at it for long days. And most days of the week. It's not as hard as you imagine if you love it, but it seems crazy from the outside in.
Yeah, that's Hiro, before we get started, I know you are a guy that wakes up really early, have your espresso, and then go do some DAO stuff. But tell us a little bit about yourself before joining this DAO world, and who were you before?
Yeah, it's always one of these questions that I find really interesting, right? Because when people ask you, when you meet people, they go, well, what do you do? And what they really mean is what do you do for work, right? and it's a funny way that we order ourselves based upon our professions and stuff. So, I would say with that nod in mind that I was an attorney professionally for a long time. Before that, I was, dishwasher, barista, dry cleaner, clerk, bartender, writing instructor, teacher, handyman. I don't know. I've done a lot of different things, right? And so, but in the end, I'm just a guy who has had some good luck and some bad luck in life, like a lot of people. And I'm a little older than most folks in the space. I'm 44, and I've been through some stuff. And so I don't know who I am. I'm an amalgamation of all the things that I've seen and experienced and thought about. And then I don't know. So I'm a 44-year-old guy. I live in the Pacific Northwest of Washington State in the good old USA. And, I'm married. I have 4 kids. And I spend all the time I have outside of them in DAOs. Just recently I've worked back in a yoga routine. I'm kind of a long 20-year yoga guy. Didn't do that for the first 6 months of DAOs. I have a crappy meditation practice and a bad journaling practice. I like therapists and hikes in the woods, you know, like, but for real also, like, I love to cook. We do a lot of cooking, always have. Kind of got that from my mama, who was always in the kitchen cooking up awesome meals. And so like, that's one thing I definitely do outside of these things. Play a little guitar now and again, like pottery. I don't know. How do you describe who you are? Kind of like that, I guess.
Yeah, could we say your hobbies are yeah, what hobbies do you have actually? Like you said, guitar, pottery, cooking, but which one do you prefer?
And then more than that, I mean, like, you know, play golf once in a while. We love hiking and getting outdoors. We spend a lot of time outdoors. I'm a road cyclist and former, like, you know, urban bike commuter. So I love bikes and I love getting on a bike and riding for, you know, many, many miles and getting tired and then coming home. Like it's great. Snow skiing, a ton of, usually not so since COVID. And, you know, I coached the kids' soccer team. That's kind of a hobby. I didn't play football, you know, as a kid. It's like the only sport I didn't do. And I started coaching my daughters when she was 6, my eldest daughter's soccer team. And like, I loved it. So I coached hard until COVID hit, and we'll do that again, you know, kind of now that the world where we are is opening back up. And so other hobbies, I don't know, you read, you write. I love poetry. I like fiction. I like bad fiction and great fiction. And, you know, I don't know. I've always had a lot of different interests, right? That's kind of I've had no clear path, you know, for better or for worse in my life. And when you kind of wander around with, you know, sometimes a lot of intention and sometimes not very much, you just come across things if you're curious. And that leads you down little rabbit holes, right? So I've been falling down rabbit holes long before crypto. And I'm also
probably
basic,
this is why you are such an interesting person, right? Because having this lot of interesting, you know, and exploring all these interests that you have, it makes you really interesting person, right? At least in my point of view. And I would like to ask you, and how did you get into crypto? How's that? You know, what were you doing when you heard the first time about crypto, and how did you start?
Yeah. I mean, again, I guess it kind of means how you define it, right? But if you go really broad, you know, I've always, you know, as a reader, you know, and, you know, I got into Neil Stephenson some time ago, and he had a book called Cryptonomicon, which kind of provided an overview of the development of that science over time, interweaved with some really good fiction. And that's kind of when I first started thinking about cryptography and computers and things like that in a real way. I was always kind of an internet nerd, like on bulletin boards, even in the early 90s, you know. And so I was kind of aware of some of the movements, cypherpunk and stuff. But, you know, I would say that kind of piqued my interest. And then I was aware of Bitcoin shortly after it came out, maybe 2010, just as, again, a person who reads, you know, kind of reads widely, or used to anyway, not so much anymore. Came across Bitcoin going, that's kind of cool. And then have always kind of followed it since then. So, you know, I remember when it was, you know, I think the first time I looked at it as a price, it was $200. I thought, and I remember thinking I had $1,000 I could spend on it and didn't. I go, that's interesting, you know, and I've always kind of followed it. I remember Mt. Gox, like when that happened. And I remember reading a lot around crypto around then. And, you know, of course, ICO and everything else that happened after that. You know, I would say for me, and I remember even when I was an attorney, like in 2017, almost doing continuing legal education classes on blockchains and stuff, but I just didn't have enough bandwidth to really think about it deeply, right? And so I quit practicing law about 3 years ago to write. I was like, I'm done. And, you know, that's sort of a different story. But as a part of that, my bandwidth opened up. And then I started kind of leaning into crypto in a really broad sense around 2020. And then I kind of paid a little bit of attention to DeFi summer. And, you know, I was like, this is interesting. And then, you know, but I kind of like was really into the tech and the blockchain. I wasn't super interested in DeFi as a concept. I didn't really have a concept of Bankless, and I still don't really have much of a concept of what that means. But it was really clear, like these new things they were building, you know, were going to do amazing things, but the stuff they were building it with was like the true evolution, right? And so I started paying attention to blockchain technology, reading a lot about it, sort of the guts of it and how it works. and then kind of expanding out from there into, DeFi and NFTs. Then, like a lot of folks, subscribed at some point to the Bankless HQ newsletter, and became a premium subscriber, and then started investing. I bought my first crypto. It was like $100 of ETH and $100 of Bitcoin, like this first day of 2021. So on Coinbase, right? I mean, perfect. It's such a beautiful thing, right? And then, interesting stuff like the GameStop stuff happened that January, which was all kind of fun to pay attention to. And I was kind of getting into Reddit, and I kind of watched that ramp up for a couple of weeks, and that was amusing. No money in it, but it was like it was the first kind of being in the guts of the memification of finance for me, and I thought that was really interesting. And then just more investing, more reading. I was probably spending 6 or 7 hours a day just reading about crypto. And then airdrop at Bankless, and joined the server at the end of May. Didn't do anything. And then, rejoined kind of in August of 2021, started contributing hard early October in that DAO. And then sort of here we are 6 months later,
Yeah.
That's roughly the crypto journey.
You said you like the tech, like the tech of crypto. Were you always like a tech guy, a financial, more lean guy?
Not financial, no. I'm a terrible capitalist. I'm bad with money. And I'm pretty risk adverse, so thankfully, at least I have the risk adverse part to all that equation. But I've always been a tech guy. Like, I remember I don't know how to program really. Like I can build crappy websites. That's about the extent of what I can do, like literally HTML, but I've always been into computers. The first time I saw them, I was like, this is super cool. I remember figuring out on old Commodore 64s. For the right audience, that will mean something. It's these computers from the mid 80s. And I remember kind of figuring out how to get into there and play around in the guts of it. I used to play around in DOS, and figure that out as a kid and in the shells and stuff. So I've always been able to get into it and kind of understand how to operate in it, even though I don't know anything about the language. But I kind of get the hardware a little bit, and I've always sort of liked hardware for whatever reason. My grandpa was an engineer. I was probably an engineer in a different life, but I kind of like how things work. I'm not like a systems theory guy, but I do want to know sort of the guts of people and of things, right? So so I'm super into the tech. I'm not like a techie per se. I don't geek super hard on stuff, but I'm really sort of intellectually interested in, but not enough to really go super deep in any one place. That's one of maybe my big flaws, right? It's I play a lot at the surface of a lot of things, but I only dive deep on very few. And even then, I'm not even sure I care about going that deep. So it's interesting.
What motivates you to keep going? Keep on believing the tech of crypto. What part of the tech that catch your attention?
Well, I guess there's a couple of different questions there, right? One, I've become a tech optimist over time. I'm kind of like a pessimist in retraining, right? And as part of some of the things that I've realized, I've become a tech optimist. And I think I approached the blockchain kind of with that mindset, right? Because you can see a lot of ways that maybe the blockchain is a little bit scary, right? In terms of a technology, in terms of its ability to record information transparently and immutably over time, right? What a tool for people that want to do nefarious things, But for me, there's so much more to it than that it fits within the techno-optimism lens for me. It, finally enables, and I'm no Marxist, but it does enable that dream, right? And Hegel's dream and going back of people who work owning what they earn and what they work for and the contents of their creations. To their use of phraseology, right? The means of their own production. And I think that's a huge deal. And the incentives are still wrong. We don't understand them. But the fundamental idea that you can own your labor and that you can earn a sustainable living through your work is amazing, right? And if you think about those ideas like 1,000 true fans, and if you've never heard of that, that's essentially, if you have 1,000 people who really believe in your work, and I can't cite who said this, I don't remember. I know that Tim Ferriss is a guy who talks about this kind of stuff a lot, and Seth Godin. But you have 1,000 true fans, you can essentially make a living in the age of the internet. And I think that's true. And if you have 1,000 true fans on the blockchain, it's even more true. And so I think that it revolutionizes what it means to make a living long term, period. It doesn't change everything, but it's definitely going to change the way we work.
You joined the server, the BanklessDAO server in May, and you started to contribute really hard on October. And how was this beginning for you, and why? What did drive you to start contributing? And how did you start? Could you tell us a little bit about this transition, to kind of real life to the DAO life and be working in a DAO?
Yeah. It was interesting timing, and so like I had my fourth kid, a boy, so now we have two of each. A month before I jumped in hard to DAOs, so like, and I had a tough transition from having 3 kids to 4 kids. I had a tough transition from having no kids to 1 kid, but I was working so much as an attorney, like, I wasn't paying enough attention, but I don't do hard transitions really, really well. And so I think as part of that, like, maybe I was like, searching, like it umped my desire to search for something. So like even though I was lurking, and by that point, like in late August, lurking pretty hard in the Writers Guild, reading it, so not every, 10 minutes like you do now, psycho, but like, every couple of days checking in a few channels and kind of seeing what's going on. Right. And so, I was like, this is cool. And so I think that at some point, like after, really had my son, or my wife had my son, we do home bursts, which is maybe interesting information. And we always, for all the kids we have, which is cool. And so it's a really interactive environment. Shortly thereafter, I kind of like lost it a little bit, a couple of days or the day after. Like I just like kind of freaked out, like, oh my God, I can't do this, which is a little unlike me, but it's not all the way out of character, And our midwife, I was talking to her about a week later going, God, I just kind of lost it. And she goes, it's because you care. Like if you didn't care, you wouldn't lose it. And I was like, oh, that kind of makes some sense. And my wife, I think, still disagrees with that analysis, but it feels better to me. But anyway, so as part of that, I think I was just like a little more vulnerable and a little more searchy, watching the baby with the mama. I think maybe I wanted to grow something, like, I don't know. But whatever the case, like I remember it was 3 a.m, like in early October or late September. And I remember kind of woke up to some weird mood, and I just like, fuck it, this is the morning. And so I said hi in Writers General, and I said hi in Legal General. And I think I pinged Sid in a DM, Siddhartha, and this guy named Tay at the Legal Guild, who I think was my first contact at Bankless, and we're still dear friends today. Yeah. So that was how that was it. It was 3 a.m. with a message, and it's been more or less full time ever since.
And what are you doing now at the BanklessDAO? What guilds are you participating? What are you writing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's hard to define. I can tell you. So it's an easy and hard question. It's easy in terms of like what I do is I write, I edit, and I coordinate newsletters. I probably really, in terms of the time I take, in that inverse order. So I coordinate decentralized legal and the weekly roll up. So that takes some time and attention, certainly, and I love it very much. Like I love it. And then I edit and ship stuff through our editorial and publishing arm. So I kind of have 2 roles in there, as an editor and as 1 or 2 folks who kind of primarily help to get stuff out. And I am on the team of client services and write for them, which is kind of our outward facing arm for for really just clients in the space, like and protocols and projects, more particularly in the space, and we do some pretty cool stuff. We get to write a lot for Maker and for Yearn, and Perpetual Protocol, and just some of the players in the space. I had a chance recently to write on a new open source wallet called Tally, which is super dope. And it's going to be essentially.
So you're basically learning as you're writing. You're writing, so that's and also learning about it.
Yeah, so that's actually an interesting point, right? Because I remember I brought this, we were trying to figure out whether to give this guy a pass on only an okay article, and essentially one person was saying to me, well, we can't expect him to learn it and then write it. And I'm like, well, no, that's actually exactly what you do. I mean, you learn it, you internalize it, and then you write it. And like, that's the process of writing, especially when you're, writing for, external clients or writing about new things, which it really is what client work is. And so, yeah, it's like literally all about the process of learning, and then, letting it sit with you for a bit, figuring out what it is in your words, and then you get it out, right? And like, sometimes it's really easy to write it. And other times, like, and that Tally article is a great example. I don't do rewrites a lot of anything. I mean, I edit heavy my own stuff, but like, I don't rewrite. I rewrote this thing, I swear to God, like 3 or 4 times. Like, I struggled with it. And like, people don't get it. Like, writing sometimes is freaking hard, man. And like, people get frustrated because they didn't do great on the, they didn't think it was very good. Well, it probably wasn't, right? But then you just write it again. And then eventually you figure out that you're going to get it to where it needs to be. But you got to trust in the process. And I think for new writers, I get super challenging. So they don't realize you got to learn. They don't realize it's a craft. And, I didn't realize that either until I started working in DAOs. I mean, I've always kind of written, I've written for money. I've written for fun. As a lawyer, you do a lot of writing. But, not until I really spent time editing other people's stuff and writing regularly did I realize that writing is just work. And it's beautiful work, and I love it. But man, sometimes it takes effort. It's not supposed to be easy, And
it's not for everyone. I mean, you have to put some time on it.
Dude, it's just like anything. I mean, it's not like you're going to go into a wood shop and all of a sudden go, man, I'm going to build a replica of an ancient Chinese wardrobe today. I mean, like, sometimes you just got to learn how to do it before you can do it. But that doesn't mean you're not doing it in the process. I mean, I learn every day how to be a better writer, and especially a better editor. And so like I mean, my wife is always fond of saying like white belt, just like, and the other thing, the idea is you have a beginner's mind. The other thing that she notices in Star Wars, like, the really good guys have green lightsabers, and the really bad guys have like red ones, and the idea is that they already know everything. They think they do. And the real, Jedis, right, are always green belts because they know they don't. White belts are always green lightsabers because they realize I don't know much. So I've internalized that a little bit over all these years.
And let me ask you, Hiro, because you were talking about experience with writing and learning, and you write a lot for the Good Morning News pretty much every day. I read your stories, and I love the way you finish them. It's always, there's a kind of fun there. And how has been your experience, with pretty much writing every day? And in general, since you're in DAOs, how has been your experience with, with people, with coordination? So I would like to know pretty much about the writing experience, like writing every day, and the broader experience in general, And from this broader experience, what drove you to write the letter for the DAOs?
Yeah, 3-part question. Okay, I'm going to forget one of them, but I'll do my best to work in reverse, And so, with GMN and writing every day, right? Like, that's, yeah, I mean, I've always been sort of a news junkie, right? And so, I fell in love with that aspect of it right away. And then, of course, with the tech love, like, it's an easy no-brainer for me to want to put a lot of effort into, right? And so writing every day for me is not effort. I mean, the only thing I struggle with is like, especially now that I'm spending more time with the fam and less time working, like how to fit it all in, right? And it can be a challenge. But it's like the easiest thing ever to want to write for GMN. Like, I love it. I wish I had more time to write more original stuff. But I don't, and that's okay. I like a little bit that what you're going to write about because the community has chosen it. So, you don't have to come up with something new all the time. But I do want to say, like, the twist at the end, sometimes that's mine. I would say over half the time it's True Cat, it's Katrina, who makes sure that there's a special twist at the end. And so, if I don't have one there, she'll do it. I would say also like 10% of the time I just go, this ending sucks, please fix it. And so, like, she is, she is as much a writer as she is an editor. She would never admit that. But it's true. And so those cute twists are often by her. And I love writing. And so like the thing about writing, right? Like, again, the more you do it, it's not necessarily the more you do it, the more you get better at it, but the more you do it consciously, the better you get at it. And so, I'm a better writer now than when I started. It is funny because when I write articles, I find myself like writing in news style because I do write for GMN almost every day. And it's a particular cadence to the words, and the way that you write the news story is different than how you write anything else. And so I find that because I do that so much, it does carry over. So I have to, like, I start writing and I have to be like, okay, no, you can't, you're not writing a news article. You got to chill. But yeah, that's easy. So yeah, GMN, I love it. But I also love like the team. Like, you guys are great, publisher and C-Double, and of course TrueCat. Like, it's amazing, right? And there's a cool little model that's going on there. And I'm still ever hopeful, like, that we'll be having issue 500 and issue 1000. So we're just going to keep at it and build through the bear market. And it'll be interesting to see what happens long term. And, in terms of coordinating in DAOs, like, let me have a sip of coffee here while I think about that.
You were talking about your experience writing for Good Morning, and you're talking about people, and this is why I had this broader question, because I love to work with you. I love to work the Good Morning News team. I love the team of Bankless Brazil, people that I engage with every day. But could you talk about a little bit the broader experience, to meeting new people and interacting with them, working online? This is the broader thing about DAOs, and what from this experience drove you to write the letter to the DAO?
Yeah, I think for me, the online community it's interesting, like where I live, I don't have a lot of close friends. I don't even really have many acquaintances, I was born in the town I live in now, but I left, for a long time, 12 or 13 years during the really sort of like fundamental developmental parts of your life, 18 to 30, right? And so I have a ton of close friends there, but not really in Spokane. I have one of my oldest and best childhood friends here, which is super cool. And we get together, once every couple months. And then, you always had friends through work and stuff. But when I stopped lawyering, like, those connections didn't really hold very much. I've never been on Facebook or Twitter. And so, like, I don't keep in contact with people that way. And so I'm a part of, like, a lot of group messages via text, which is pretty funny because I spend so much time on Discord. I ignore texts these days. But yeah, and so, it's kind of like wanting this community. And it's something that I complained to my wife a little bit about too, that like, they're just like, where are my people? And the truth is, like, that's a cop out. I mean, because there's youth communities everywhere, but And then I think truly some of the things I've been through in my life, like, I had a twin brother who died. And I think as part of that, I watched like a lot of people abandon him because of the stuff that he went through. He was schizophrenic. And I had some anger at some old friends and didn't want to keep in touch with them. And I think also in that process it's pretty hardcore, And so I think your desire to sort of reach out to people and create new communities maybe a little smaller. So the point is, after all that, I guess, that I was wanting something. And I didn't realize that was going to be part of DAO life, right? I imagine kind of coming into DAOs, writing. I didn't even really think about editing because it's not something I had done for other people except for once, really. But it turned out I liked it. And so, I kind of shortly thought I'd edit and write. And then I kind of found DAO Punks pretty quick and went over to that server and like started being really active over there. And then I sort of understood, that these people at DAO Punks and the people at BanklessDAO were like these people that I needed and wanted, and this community that, like felt like home in a way I've never felt, as a student, as somebody who worked in a lot of different jobs for a long time, as a lawyer for 10 or 12 years. I never felt like this sense of belonging, and it was really interesting. And then as I got more involved in, kind of participating in DAO Punks and at BanklessDAO, I just, found that was really into the people. I mean, the work was awesome, but it was like such a rush to meet these really smart, interesting people from across the world, and then to be able to do work with them, like what a gift, right? And so one of the things that I believe a lot in, and at some point I'll write about it, is about pseudonymous intimacy, right? This idea that, you actually maybe not only bring your whole self, but then a little bit more because, you're less sort of inhibited by the physical realm, and I think that some insecurities that you may have don't exist. So it allows you to be a more true or open person, not just, and I'm not just talking about me, but that's true for me as well. But for a lot of the people that I meet, I think that we bring our best versions in a really pure way here, in a way that we don't to Web 2. And I think part of that is the pseudonymity. One of the things that we confuse a lot is anonymity and pseudonymity, right? But of course, there's very few true anons. Most people are just pseudos, but we use different words. I might actually argue because of the blockchain, there's no such thing as being anonymous. You're just your wallet address, right? But that's still an identity. I mean, you can still trace a blockchain transactions in incredibly sophisticated ways and link it with real world data and have a pretty good sense of who people are. We're not to the point where we can pinpoint it all yet, but I think we're a lot closer than most people think. And so embrace the pseudonymous life. Or if you want to be pure docs, like some people that I know really well and admire a lot, that's super great. I am partially doxed to some people, and that's cool. I'm not so free range in that I want to be video doxed with my friends Guelfi and Diego today. But that's so the community, right? It's like the whole thing. And, if the economic models of DAOs failed, tomorrow, which they won't, but if they did, you would still have community. It would just be a little different. And you'd be organizing in new and different ways. So I love the community, man. It's what keeps me here for sure, without question, even though I also love the work. But this idea of being close with near strangers is a really powerful paradigm for me. And I think for a lot of people, to be honest.
It's amazing what you said, and I can see myself in a huge amount of what you just said, and the sense of belonging. Hey, this is real, from my experience. So I don't need to see your face. I don't need to see the face of most of people that I work with here, that I engage pretty much every day. But this feeling of being friends because we share the same vision, we share the same space. It's totally amazing. And I wish most people could realize that. And this is the part of this Web3 and crypto and DAOs world when I don't care for the price of ETH, the price of Bitcoin, this kind of stuff, because it doesn't matter, People are still here, and people that are building stuff, people that are supporting each other, and this is the most amazing thing. I agree 100% with you when it comes to that.
Hiro, what's the purpose of all of we're doing here? What's the goal in your view, your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think different players in the space have different goals, right? My personal goal is to help build new ways of living that allow us to be, better humans to ourselves and to others. I think that we really are building revolutionary models of social organization, of compensation and incentivization, of the way that we organize the basic blocks of society, from what does it mean to be part of a group and a community? What's it mean to work together? What's it mean to be close with each other? What does it mean to make decisions in a binding and non-binding way? What does cohesion and consensus look like? Like these are fundamental important questions for how humans live, and we've always grappled with them. And I really believe that the blockchain enables us to do it in a way, and it's not just the blockchain, like just to be super clear, that the technology we now have as codified by the blockchain almost, right, allows us to do it. So whatever Web3 means, and I don't know what Web3 is, right? I mean, I don't like that we frame it as an opposite of Web2 or some sort of antithesis of that. I mean, we're not in a dialectic relationship with Web2, although we treat it like we are. I mean, Web3 is really just, for me, it's it's an amorphous concept. But part of what it is we're trying to figure out, what do we do with this new technology, and what do we do now that the world's flatter, not just in the way that we organize, but in the way that we communicate and travel and live, right? Like we get this thing called the Yum Box, and every month, in something the size of a shoebox, we are sent salty and crunchy and sweet snacks from some country in the world. And, it is the most amazing thing ever. And like, what a world we live in, where every month a little package of food from some foreign place shows up at my doorstep, and I get to eat it and try it. And we put on traditional music, and we sort of like have a family affair about it. Like, that's, for me, that's kind of like sort of Web3 too, even though it's not blockchain enabled, but it speaks to how connected we are in different ways than we'd ever imagine. I mean, I can fly to Rio in a day. Like, how amazing is that, right? And so, what keeps me here, is the idea that, all these things colliding at the same time. The technology that's not blockchain related, the technology that is, the way that our world seems to be going through these, kind of convulsions at the moment, unrelated to either one of those. I think that we really are at we're at a new revolution. I mean, I really believe that. I think it's actually different. I think it's a bad idea to define it as like the Renaissance or the Industrial Revolution, or the spread of mass religion or something, like some other big events. It's something different, and I think it's like the foundation for the way that we live as human beings on this planet and others. So it's like we're like at the primordial soup stage of the next big thing, and it's amazing to be in it every day.
Hiro, you mentioned in previous conversation that you put about 18 hours a day. I don't know if you're still doing that, but what would you do different this time? What would you tell someone that wants to go full DAO? Would you tell them to put as many hours as you did? What would you tell them to do differently that you did?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't do 18 hours anymore because I can't. I mean, to go allude to that love letter, I mean, like, my family was disintegrating around me, right? And so, like, if I was okay with, getting a divorce and living more or less alone, seeing my kids infrequently, I mean, I would still I'd put in more time. I'd put in every minute that I wasn't, like cleaning myself or eating, right? And, I mean, I don't actually mean that. I'm a little more balanced now, so I would exercise too, and maybe even go outside. But yeah, I mean, I would still put in all the time that I could. But now that I'm trying to live a more balanced life, to be, more of a husband and a father, again, to like remember what it's like to exercise and like go take walks and stuff. It's more like 10, 12, 14 on some days. I mean, I basically get up like at 3 or 4 in the morning, sometimes 2, sometimes 1. And I'm more or less working until I go to bed at 8. And I would say that, in there are, a couple of chunks of time, a couple hours here and a couple hours there, where I'm with the fam. I do a lot of the cooking, so I get in there and do that. But yeah, I mean, I still put in all the time I can. I'm trying to be also a little more balanced, and some days are better than others. But every day that I do yoga, I'm way more balanced than the days I don't. Just bookmark that. So in terms of like jumping into DAOs, I mean, from a wizened perspective, you got to do it in a way that works for your life, right? Like, if you are a single person who doesn't need outside income, for whatever reason, they have bags or they're a Doustafarian or whatever, I would say work every minute that you can. If you can do 20 hours a day and do that for a couple of months, and then know that burnout's coming and scale back when you need to, it's the best way to get involved, because the hard engagement over time creates knowledge and skills and recognition in a way that dabbling, for an hour or two a day doesn't. And like, there's nothing like it's not trial by fire. I mean, it's kind of like trial by love and passion. But I don't know. I still think diving all in with both feet, if you can afford to, and it won't ruin other things you have in your life, is the best way to go full-time DAO. I don't know how else to do it. And the people that I see that straddle it struggle the most. The people that I see that made the commitment, full-time DAO well, most of them burn out at some point. And as long as they can work through the burnout and then find better balance, you're going to be all right. But I know, I would say 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5 full-time DAOs burn out. I would say the numbers maybe even higher than that. I can think of one person I know who spends as much time or more than I do in the space who hasn't, but only one.
And why do you think people burn out when they're working too much or what are they trying to do?
I think that you in the end have, and it varies from person to person, but I think that you have a reservoir of ishness of whatever you're doing, and when that reservoir runs dry, you burn out. That might take you months or years or days. It depends on how full your tank is when you start. So I think it has a lot to do with that, to be honest. I mean, you can get by on the high of the vibe for a long time. And even in the bear market like we have now, I would still argue the vibe is way better than anywhere else you're going to go work, even when it's not quite as fun as roaring bull markets. I actually think the bear market building is better. It's a little bit lonelier, but I also think that DAOs need to centralize more. And so bear market building is a form of centralization because the people that are still around want to be here to make something. So I think there's a lot of power in bear market building, but it's a little less vibey. But, if you're here for the long run, these things don't even matter. I don't like you mentioned, Diego, I don't look at the price of things. And I'm here every day working hard regardless, even on the days that are harder, maybe those are the big growth days anyway.
Yeah, and this is what I've been saying to people, and I feel you were talking about people getting exhausted. I've been there, but I still wake up and sometimes I'm tired, but I'm so excited with what's going on. Just like you said, it's a revolution in a way that people coordinate and the way we do stuff. Hey, we three here, we are in totally different places in the world, and we meet ourselves online in different communities and we build things together. And this is the kind of thing that we are trying to show people. There's another way. So I know that most of us grow up and listening to people saying, hey, this is the right way to do the stuff, this is the right way to live. But there's not a right way to approach life, and there's not a right way to approach DAOs. And you have to experience that and see what works best for you. And one thing that I love in the letter you wrote, that you shared your experience, and I can see myself in lots of things that you wrote there, but some other things it's different for me, because I know you have kids and I don't, so it's different the way we use your time. But in the broader way, we are sharing the same experience. And I always say to people, I try to tell them, hey, jump in a DAO, jump in a server, try to help, ask around, talk to people, and do your way in this, and there's not only one way to approach it. And I would ask you, what will be if you have one, what will be the most important lesson that you've learned in your experience with DAOs, Hiro?
One thing, Hiro, before you answer the question, I am really proud of you because I know how hard it is to have kids, wife, work from home, have dogs, kids running around, and you're trying to work there, trying to concentrate yourself. I know how hard this is. And I imagine, how you go through with 4 kids and a wife and, everything else in between. So I am really proud of what you're doing to this space, to the ecosystem, putting time and effort there. We need you. We need the time you put it in.
I think if was one thing I've learned, it's that everything we do is public. The interactions that happen on Discord are public. The interactions that happen on Twitter, which is probably like the most important Web3 tool next to Discord, is public. And I like that, and it should be. I've also realized that the real decisions in DAOs happen in DMs. They happen on voice syncs, and they don't necessarily happen in public. And so I think that one of the things that needs to happen going forward for DAOs to realize their full potential, they got to decide, like, what do they want to be? Because the word like permissionless confuses us. The word transparent confuses us. Those talk about the blockchain as a technology, right? But I think a lot of confusion happens when we talk about it as the way that DAOs work or the ways that humans naturally organize, because quite frankly, it's not. And I think one of the great failures that we're going through as DAOs right now is we're confusing, decentralization, in terms of, again, like its technology and the blockchain with, how we should really organize over time. And I think the most successful projects tend to stay pretty centralized and then slowly decentralize. Whereas the ones that start out distributed and decentralized, run into problems, and they struggle in their growth from becoming an infant DAO to a toddler DAO, and so I think we need to be really clear about what we're building and like how we're building it. And we don't want to recreate these corporate structures, certainly. But what do we want to create instead? I mean, are we anti-corporate? I mean, DAO Punks, which I love to death, sort of has an anti-corporate statement that I identify really, really well with. I mean, and it's what drew me to DAO Punks was the idea of corporate to DAO Punk. I'm just like, fuck yeah, exactly, But the more time I spend in DAOs, I'm like, well, that doesn't mean that we're anti-corporate. It means that we are organizing as a super organism, right? Which is a whole different deal. And like my great pal Jake and Steak wrote an article on bees and the way they organize and the way they make decisions in State of the DAOs a few weeks ago, which was awesome. I'm aware of some more thinking along those lines. And I think it's fascinating, and so I'm not like a scholar of the stuff like some people read about holacracy and, these other, super organism type models. I don't know any about that stuff. I haven't had the bandwidth to intellectualize the kind of organization we do. I just work every day. That's fine for now. Later on, I'll try to intellectualize some of this stuff. But like, what are you, DAO? So my lesson is like, I guess it's like, one, don't ever think you're right. Like, because humans have never been right about anything. Like we call things, but we don't actually really even know what they are, And so, like accepting that we don't know is a really important lesson for life, but it's probably the most important in DAOs because you're going to meet brilliant people with wide backgrounds who bring all kinds of different knowledge to this place. And to think that or are correct is a huge error and it's a huge fallacy. And so you're probably wrong. You might be right, but you're probably wrong. And somebody else probably has a better idea. But you should also share your idea because it might be better. And ultimately, the collective kind of decides, and it's an interesting little process. But man, like embrace being wrong in public, because that's kind of what we're doing is building in public. Own up when you're wrong, if you make a big deal about it. But it's cool. Like go to work every day being wrong and work really hard anyway. I don't know. It seems to me that the people who come in with the tightest grasp on something seem to be the ones who struggle most on the frontier of DAO life, So be open, be loose, but work hard and, enjoy what you do. I don't know. It's an interesting time.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, I feel the same. I feel like a lot of people come into the space. They don't really know how to contribute. They don't really know how to organize themselves. And the DAO tools are just that. We're trying to organize ourselves into the same goal, the same, going the same direction. What are your biggest concerns to this industry in general? I know you have a bearish tone sometimes. What are your biggest concerns?
Look, I'm just Diego talking over you,
It was not me.
Asking about the Bears. So
it was not me this time.
There's a lot of.
I'm not saying I never say that you think crypto is going down, but you got some concerns. I know that.
Yeah.
So what are them?
I mean, as a technical optimist, I'm still not. I'm not like a universalist. Like you got to still analyze what you're doing. And so DAO tools is a passion of mine. When I sat down to write that State of the DAOs article, the love letter to DAOs, I was sat down to write an article on DAO tooling. Like that was like literally what it said on the editorial backlog. Like Hiro's writing an article on DAO tooling, But and this is maybe like sideways advice for writers, but like don't force yourself to write something. I mean, if you have to for a client, like and then it takes you 4 times to rewrite it because you can't feel it. And it's just kind of harder, but when you can write something that's just like that you can create for yourself, like don't try to write something that your mind and body doesn't want to write. Like I tried to write that DAO tooling piece like 3 times, but this love letter is like all that wanted to come out. And so like in some ways, and it was like, there's another 1,000 words that left or 2,000, well, a lot of words that left on the cutting room floor, that kind of dove into some of the stuff we just talked about. But, DAO tooling is a big deal. And there's another DAO that I'm a part of, but don't contribute really much, called 2+. And there's a guy that sort of has done work named Louis under that brand for some time. And their DAO, that DAO 2+, is going to focus, they're kind of figuring it out a bit still from what I can understand, but are going to focus on DAO tooling, mental health in DAOs, community well-being, etc. I think, long-term, that stuff's super important for long-term DAO contributors. So I'd like to see more focus on that. And I'm going to, like always spend a little bit of attention thinking about, those things. And so I think that's probably the next big unlock for DAOs is a term we use. But I think for me, it's like bringing the whole person in and how do we build, sustainable models that embrace all of us, in all of our different states of being, and like where can we go when we need like some companionship and some love and support, and I think we'll see some DAOs that spring up for that. Social DAOs like Bankless kind of is part social DAO provides some of that, I think, but to have it in a more focused way, is going to be important long term. And there's a lot of people working on that stuff. So that's cool. Alternatives to Discord, complements to Discord, alternatives to Twitter, etc. So we're like in like day 1 of DAO tooling. We don't know anything. In terms of like bearishness, not a bear, not a bull, not even a cyclist, except on road bikes. And like, I think that I am beyond optimistic about blockchain technology. I am nervous and bearish, to use your guys' term, on who ultimately gets control of the blockchain, the main blockchains. I mean, there'll be millions of blockchains, but I mean, billions, infinity, I don't know. But, the ones that we use to interact with the world every day, I have concerns that those will be corporatized over time. Even when you have the best intentions, that they'll be used by state actors for nefarious purposes, that they'll be used by non-state actors for nefarious purposes. And I don't know what it means when quantum computing and whatever the next thing after quantum computing does for these technologies. I don't know how long it takes to break a hash with new technology. And so but as a techno-optimist, I think long term, we just keep building. And if there's a quantum computer that can break, our 24-word private phrase, or can crack the passwords, or can break, end-to-end encryption, which I think is going to happen. You're hopefully, and you will have builders who are also creating machines to encrypt, and we'll be in that same battle that we've been in forever between coder and code breaker. So the question marks for me are like, who does what when do those things develop? As proof of stake gets more widespread and you can own a near unlimited share of a particular transactional currency to increase your stake in the blockchain and thereby extract more of its resources. What happens when, state, non-state actors with deep pockets, buy up all of that stuff? What does decentralization look like in 10 years? I don't know, and so like, I still like proof of work, for its immutableness. I'm not a maxi. I have more ETH than anything. But I wonder, like, as we make all these transitions to alternative consensus mechanisms, if we're making a mistake, and if the Bitcoin maxis that swear on proof of work are going to be right. And so, these are the things I think about when I have some free time, which honestly is not a lot. And a lot of it has just been thinking out loud on GMED podcasts. But those are the things I'm concerned about in this space. And, but it's like no more concern than you would bring into any kind of revolution. Because we pretend we know, but again, like, we don't know anything. Like, we don't even know physics. Like, we pretend we know like what physics are. We know some things, but no one can really tell you like how the universe is built. Like, until you can tell me where the first molecule, the first atom, the first whatever came from, that began the Big Bang, like, there's still magic, And so to pretend that we know everything is ridiculous, and we don't know anything. We just have fancy words and better science to try to figure out what we think we know. So, like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we got to keep these things in mind as we build, right? And privacy versus security, the age-old trade-off. Like, but now it's manifest in powerful new ways.
What I understood is you are tired of corporations controlling people's life, pretty much, and then you also like the tech and what's going on here, that we're trying to change that. Create communities, bring power back to the individuals, and there's your concern is that we go back to the same old corporation controls everything, because they're gonna have most of the money, so they can buy all the fancy machines, they can validate the nodes and stuff like that. So am I right on that conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, but not just corporations. But yeah, I mean, so I'm a long time anti-capitalist. So I'm really aware of the saying that if you're not a capitalist at 20, you have no heart. I'm sorry, if you're not a communist at 50, you have no heart. If you're not a capitalist at 50, you have no brain. 44, I'm a lot closer on that mark to capitalist, but I can't seem to quite get there. I spent a lot of time as an undergrad reading pretty deeply and widely on all the materials available on sort of, what I guess you'd call like French Marxism, sort of. And it informs a lot of my thinking, and as part of that, I think that I don't know at my core I can ever be a capitalist. And so it's a challenge. And I do think that, a lot of the world is played out in power dynamics, and it's relational, and that corporations have a really good incentive structure to keep on doing what they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, it comes from an anti-capitalist place for sure. I also think there are some corporations that do a lot of good. And so, like, it's dangerous to paint it all, right? But as a shareholder system, especially the last 50 years, as we've seek to maximize shareholder value at the expense of everything else, I think it's a really perverted way to work, and it misaligns public goods incentives with private incentives, and it's not a sustainable way to work. I don't think that capitalism long-term can exist along with healthy people and a healthy planet, and so, like, for me, it always goes back to people. And I think this is like, I'm not really a socialist either, but I like that there's the word social in it, because again, like, politics is about people. I mean, the root word is people, right? And like, we forget that, and we corporatize people and their things. Web 2, of course, is famous for that. And Web 3 doesn't have to be, but if we're not like really careful, it will be, right? I mean, one of the things that I joke about is that I'm like in a secret war with Mark Zuckerberg, like he just doesn't know it yet. And I think that the metaverse that he's creating is going to be very popular. And I think that,
unfortunately,
yeah, but it just will be, right? And so the question is, like, what kind of open access Web3 metaverses can we build? Like, we talk a lot about Decentraland, which I've gone and played in, but it doesn't have very many active daily users. Like, last time I looked, it's like 2,000. And, so for, and as somebody who bought Mana at 15 cents, and sold it at $1, and now it's at $3.5 because I like to watch it sometimes. I'm like, how can 6 billion or 10 billion of those be worth $3? when you have 2,000 active daily users. And of course, you're betting on the future. But like when you have, people building hundreds, thousands of metaverses, you're going to have this open, spread out metaverse world. And I'm worried that unless we kind of figure out what we're doing before too long, that the centralized metaverses are going to control, right? And you'll always have decentralized metaverses that capture some amount of our attention. Like you'll never see me in Meta, but how many people are going to end up playing in Decentraland? And I'm actually optimistic that I think it will be a lot, but it's going to take or Sandbox or Vixel Voxels, or I can't even say it correctly right now. Crypto Voxels, whatever. So like, I think the pull of centralization is strong in people. And I think that goes through where we play, and they like a uniform experience and they get a little afraid by the new and they get afraid by the chaos. And so like they leave, and so when the dust settles in 5 or 10 years, like what does the metaverse look like? And I think a lot about that because I think in 20 years, we're going to spend most of our time there, and so like,
and I think that's the reason, one of the reasons why we're still around, even though, we're working our ass off, like working many hours a day, not making as much money as we could out there. But I think we're still here to make this thing right.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it.
That's exactly
Otherwise, we're just going to go back to the same old system that we are in now,
yes.
And nothing's going to change.
Correct. Like when I try to explain to normies, which is actually a term I kind of like, even though I hate most pejorative terms like that. But I think it makes so much sense because we are a little bit psychotic, right? And like you try to explain what you're doing and even like I struggle as a writer, right? To explain in words what we're doing. And I've never even tried on paper, but I would imagine I'd struggle a lot too. Like I feel like the words are inadequate to describe what we're actually doing. We can talk about words like revolution or, building a new foundation for social relations or whatever, but they don't encapsulate like what we do here. And so, unless you come and you spend time in an engaged way, you just don't know, and so I think that's right. I mean, I am here, and I alluded this in the love letter, right? Like, to make sure that when my wife builds a DAO, when my kids build DAOs and join DAOs and this and that they're better iterations than what they are now. And, this model is going to spread everywhere, right? One way or the other. And, the blockchain is going to power all of it. And like DAOs, which I really, in the end, don't think the name is a very good name for what we're doing, but it, and how we work and what the technology enables, et cetera. But it's the one we got for now. This space needs a lot of work, and it's a little tiny baby, and it needs to be loved and nurtured for some time. And I'm going to spend the rest of my working life doing that.
Yeah, I know. That's just amazing because I tell normies, people that are 50, 60 years old, I don't really care about this. I'm okay here. I'm just going to save up my money and this is not going to work, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, that's really the future. And these people, they need at least to learn the basic stuff so they can pass on generations. I think that's the need we're looking for. We don't want them to join us. We don't want them to but just learn about it, read about it. Learn the basics because your kids are the ones that are going to use this technology, not you, but your kids. Anyway,
well, I think that they will too. I mean, if they're 50 years old, I mean, everything is going on chain. I mean, even things you don't think that need to be on chain will be on chain. I mean, and like a smart wallet will be as integrated as opening up an email at some point, right? And I mean, none of these things they're going to be so fluid. So, I mean, they're going to learn it one way or the other. They might not understand it, right? I think that like
they're probably going to use it even without knowing it, right?
Totally. And like, guys, like every time I open MetaMask or something, I'm like, this thing is such a piece of shit. We put up with it like it's good, but like it is a bare minimum tool, guys. You know what I mean? I mean, it was like a rusty hammer hitting a rusty nail, to try to do anything real in there. And I just don't mean like NFT interface, which is just like ridiculous. I just mean like the whole thing, like their browser, like to go like connect to something through that app is just like you have to be kidding me. And this is what the unlimited money buys me for MetaMask, or for Trust Wallet or for Coinbase Wallet or whatever. I've never tried Rainbow. That's supposed to be pretty for NFTs, but suck for coins. Like, I don't know. It's like, guys, the so early thing is so overblown and so annoying, but like we are. And, this technology we have is terrible and doesn't work very well. And we pretend it does. And like, in 5 years, it's going to be very different. Right. And, so like, that's cool. But there's always going to be a level of, there's a lot of people who it's just too much freaking work, right, to do this. I mean, like to go and get a wallet, to write down your private phrase, to keep track of your password, to learn about moving money around, to off-ramp it, to on-ramp it, to swap a token, whatever, wallet connect. They're like, no, I don't want to do that. And so like, this is version 1. Like version 3 doesn't have those buttons, right? And it's more seamless and in the back end and built in. And at that point, like you're going to see more mass adoption. But I think for a lot of folks, like, it's just a hurdle. And of course, like the public narratives, which we haven't even touched upon, which we could spend another 4 hours talking about, are like super warped.
Topic
right?
for another episode, guys.
Yeah. Oh my God. Happy to do a part 2, So like you could go on forever about that. But I mean, the narratives are messed up. And I don't even blame the journalists. It's like, this stuff's hard to explain. Like, trust me, I write like for a living. Like, it's hard to explain. I struggle with it totally. We don't have the words we have and use. We don't use them right, or the words aren't invented yet. And, the technology.
Were you able to explain your wife yet?
I can't explain it to her. I can't explain it to her. I've tried so many times, like it's crazy. Like I can ramble forever and I've said nothing, and like, so like, I mean, I've published, things, for people called Crypto for Normies or DAOs for Normies or like whatever, DAOs for Dummies, like, but it's still impossible to explain. Like I was laughing when I listened to your intro in Portuguese, which I obviously don't speak, but I noticed that you said DeFi DAOs and NFTs, right? Which I thought was really amusing because like the podcast I'm spinning up with my buddy Daddy Maddie and our lovely executive producer Feems, I say the same thing in the intro. Our podcast is going to be called or is called Web Free. But it's about Web3, and I also reference DAOs, DeFi, and NFTs. I'm going, oh God, is that all we got? So I'm going to redo the intro maybe. But yeah. So guys, I mean, like this is the most exciting time to be alive, to do the most exciting work that there is to be done. And like people don't get it and they don't know it yet, and that's fine.
Yeah, definitely this is something that we've never experienced before. Like this is like a revolution that's happening. It's a changing the way the world is going to be, like financial system. That's just like an amazing,
like not just the financial system, like literally everything, right? I mean, if I have to record a deed of trust on a piece of property I buy in 5 years, like the technology is moving way too slow. If I got to do that in 10 years, like we just failed to integrate the blockchain completely and I'll be blown away. Like, I mean, like everything, right? Like, I mean, every piece of logistics, from the minute that the first chip goes into the first iPhone to the minute that it lands on my doorstep, like all that should be tracked on chain and will be, right? I mean, just everything fruit production. I mean, like guys, everything. And so, yeah. And like, we're learning about it we spend all of our time learning about it passively, learning about it actively, interacting with people who care about the same stuff. Like, oh my God, like I feel so lucky every day. Right. And, notice how we haven't talked once about, the price of anything or floors or, peaks and valleys.
So much more than that.
Like,
there's so much
like that part it's not even on the radar. I mean, let's not lie, right? Like everybody in their secret heart, like is hoping that they'll get rich somewhere. So they got to work, jobs forever, right? Like, or at least if not rich, at least sustainable income where you can make, a comfortable living for yourself and your family. You don't have to go work, as an auto mechanic or whatever. Right. But like, I think also people like, why are people here? Like, I'm not here to get rich, but honestly, like if I get rich and can pass some money on to my kids, fuck yeah. Like that would be awesome, dude. But otherwise, like, I don't care. I have been rich. I have been poor. It's all the same as long as you can eat and have a roof, dude. Like, I mean, I really feel that way.
There. Well said, sir.
Yeah,
well
dude.
said.
But I mean, I've never.
Anyways.
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. It is our game time. We have prepared something really special for you. Diego is gonna ask you a question, and give you two options, and then you're gonna have to choose one of the options. Go ahead, Diego.
And you can explain why you did your choice, or just say. Can be really arbitrary with that, okay? Okay. Rock and roll or reggae?
Rock reggae?
Rock and roll or reggae?
Yeah. Rock reggae. I'm combining the two. Yeah, I'm going to combine the two into one word. No, I understand just what you're saying. So I'm actually a huge reggae. I'm a huge reggae fan, and one of the things I didn't mention I used to do was playing bands for a long time. Never successful bands or anything, but like played a lot of music in my day. And for a while we were playing reggae. I love it. It's really hard to play. I'm a 4/4 rock and roll drummer at heart. That's what I play. I love rock and roll.
Oh, nice.
I love new rock and roll. I love old rock and roll.
Okay,
but I love reggae, man. So if you make me choose, I'm going to choose rock and roll, man. But don't make me make that choice.
Okay, no, you don't have to.
Tough one.
What the best band ever for you, in your opinion? Rock and roll, the best one.
Band ever?
Yeah.
Oh God, I do love Pink. So I grew up listening to Pink Floyd, without question. I love them deeply. Best band ever is Pearl Jam.
Oh, great! Wow, great choice. I'm with you. Okay.
I once saw Stone Gossard walking in a park, and we recorded one of our albums in Pearl Jam's informal recording studio in Fremont,
Whoa, nice.
Seattle, Washington. Yeah, man. So we used, as a Seattle guy for a long time, you would see members of Pearl Jam everywhere. My bro ran into Mike McCready at the grocery store. Never ran into Eddie Vedder, but he used to go to my pal's pet store he managed. Yeah, dude. Like, I used to go to their venues. Longtime fan. Remember their album, first album, 10. Had it
10
right
is the best.
Our junior high band.
It's the first album and still the best one.
Oh gosh, I think for me it's like Versus or No Code or
Versus. Okay, maybe, but I must say I love Live on Two Legs.
Live on Two Legs is so good. All the hits pre-98. Yeah, man. What up? Okay, Pearl Jam. Okay. Otherwise though, after that is probably LCD Sound System. So that's a quick change, but check that out if you need to. And then after that, sorry, just because I'm bad at favorites, I gotta plug Spoon. Like Spoon is one of the best bands ever. So, okay, that's
Let me ask you, do you know or like Dave Matthews Band?
So my bro, was a huge Dave Matthews Band fan. I've seen them live. I've listened to thousands of hours of it in long car rides with my brother. I will never put Dave Matthews Band on by choice, but I won't make anybody turn it off. But Buford Carter is the best drummer of all time. As a drummer.
Okay, no, yeah, it's undeniable. It's undeniable. Yeah. Carter Buford on the drums, always. Yeah, great. And what do you prefer? A good read or a good movie?
Oh, good read for sure.
Good read, great. What's the best book that you ever read?
That's interesting. I would honestly probably say it's 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez.
Yeah, I know this one, and it rains a lot. I love that book, but the rainy part, the years that rains, it's kind of sad. And did you write the names of everybody to don't mess around? Write the names, Aureliano Buendia, and
no, I didn't write the names. No, I didn't. I've read it a few times, and so I can keep track of the genealogy by now. But the kind of reader I am, though, I don't care about if I get a little confused.
I get confused as well.
I'm like, life is confusing, and so why shouldn't I be confused? I still don't know my wife's family tree. Like my father-in-law talks about it, like I should, and no, I don't know who your seventh cousin 4 times removed is. I just don't know, and I feel that same way reading that book, and I love it. And he stood before the firing squad, remembering the day that his father, brought him to see ice or however it starts, Anyway, yeah.
Okay, great. It's a great book. And if you have the chance, try to read something for it's a Portuguese author. It's José Saramago.
drop it in.
I'll send you the link later.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
I mean, I actually like a lot of Latin American authors because they're more like vulnerable and real than a lot of Western, like Northern sort of hemisphere European and American authors, and so I've always like been drawn to that stuff. Like Roberto Bolaño is another guy that I just love, and of course like the poets, right? Like you guys have such good poets, and so yeah, man. Like I mean, you guys have. I mean, you have like the European, like sort of intellectualism, like the heart of real people.
We have good stuff here. People don't know that. People don't care. People from the United States and Europe, they don't care that much. But we have good stuff here.
No, it's just like amazing.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, we have good stuff here. Okay, so next one. What do you rather, a beer or a glass of wine?
As someone who is really not a drinker, I would rather have a joint.
Oh, great. Okay. Will be my next option. You can say, okay, you can have a smoke. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. And talking about outside, you said you like to go outside. Do you prefer a beach or go to the mountains?
Oh God, I mean, that's like the devil's cut, right? Like, I think like at the end, I grew up in the mountains, so I think I would say beach. We go to the beach for a couple of weeks every year, and the cold water, so very cold water. But yeah, I think the beach. Although, I mean, God, do I love the mountains or what? The beach for me, guys, it's the sounds and the smell of the beach that I really love, and I love the sounds and the smell of the forest. But there's something sort of, I don't know, man. There's something that resets me in both places, but I feel like really fundamentally at peace near breaking water, so I think it's the beach.
Okay. By my side is the last one. And it's not going to be bull or bear because I know the answer for this one. So I gonna ask you Bitcoin or Ether?
Oh yeah, Ether for sure.
Yeah, you know that I would ask that one, right?
No, I didn't know.
I'll ask you that. Cardano or Algorand?
Oh God, I got them. I have them both.
Sorry for you.
I am spread wide on layer ones, guys. Yeah. So I mean, again, I mean, so. What can one say? Like, I'm not a maxi, and I think these all have utility and will over time. I do think Ethereum will always be the gold standard, barring something weird, and unless proof of stake turns out to be the wrong move. And I look forward to EIP 7721, which attempts to roll it back to the proof of work system, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Hey, Hiro, it's been great to finally talk to you. Finally, like, have a nice conversation and record this podcast. I had a lot of fun. I am really happy that you came. I'm really happy that Diego also came. Looking forward to kind of meet you guys in person one day, probably this year, maybe next year, who knows. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. It's been
just the highlight, guys, of some time. So I really appreciate the both of you taking the time to invite me on your show. I am just deeply honored to spend time with you in this space and to build with you every day. I get to see you around Discord on a regular basis, and I'm always happy when I see you. And so let's just go back to work, guys. Bear market building. Let's get to it. I can't wait. And but first, let's spend some time with our families first, so that we can continue to build long term. So thanks, guys. It's been freaking awesome, and I really wanted to go on Google and find some cute Portuguese saying, to say toward the end. But I actually went to the store and bought donuts this morning instead. So I guess I did prioritize my children this morning, buying them donuts. So my apologies to your Portuguese listeners. But yeah, my wife has been to Rio. We listen to bossa nova all the time, and it's as close as I get to Brazil. But thank you for having me on your show. I love you guys, and appreciate all the work you do for the space. Cheers, my friends.
This is going to be the first show where we ask the guest to do a disclaimer. Hiro, would you have the honor to do a disclaimer?
Oh, it would be my pleasure. Nothing you've heard today is an investment advice. Please do not rely on our statements or otherwise to make any choices when it comes to putting your money into anything except a deep, deep hole somewhere undisclosed under Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, America. I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you.
Also, we didn't talk much about cryptocurrency, so it's perfect, right? I was like,
yeah,
if anything.
it is perfect.
But
and where can people find out more about you? Like, where can people find you?
You can find me in Discord basically all day long and parts of the night. I'm on Twitter at Hiro Kennelly, HiroKennelly. Although mostly I just retweet stuff out of BanklessDAO and otherwise don't do too much except for comment on friends' articles and stuff we publish. And once in a while, I show a cool PFP from Bankless Brazil. Odyssey, go Odyssey. But those two places, right? I might get on GMXYZ at some point, and that seems to be kind of a cool deal. But Discord and Twitter is where you can find me. I guess there's Medium handles and Mirror handles, but they're all at Hiro Kennelly. So same as the Twitter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And I think we can wrap this thing up. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time.